published on 1798 when they met they met ST Coleridge in Germany, and how they write an essay mutually. As I told you, they discuss his political issues. They exchanged their ideas on poetry, on theories, and commented on each other's works. And this slides are actually मैंने आपको पहले बता दिए तो in this
According to the topic language, the way you are discussing, it's good. No need to feel low. Okay? Spelling mistake is
yes,
not a big issue. We review it later on. So,
so
mean that was the autobiographical introduction. You can say of both the poets,
yes,
William Wordsworth and
ST Coleridge.
ST Coleridge. Both are close to nature. Their romance with nature.
Yes.
The way she suggested that at that time people were moving from the rural areas to the urban settings, but they were just in favor of living close to nature. The rustic setting or rural setting. Continue.
So in this period, the intense creativity, they produced Lyrical Ballad in 1798. So when they published this essay Lyrical Ballad, so they actually published this essay as an experiment to next slide. So this essay has actually 23 poems. So what is lyrical? It's actually a collection of poems which has 23 poems of total, out of which 4 poems of Coleridge and 19 poems of William Wordsworth. This essay starts with a poem of ST Coleridge, The Rime of Ancient Marine, and ends with a few lines of William Wordsworth, The Tinted Abbey in 1798.
Okay, anyone can answer from class what is ballad? The way she has explained at the very first slide. What is the difference between lyric and ballad? I hope you are sitting vigilantly and listening up. What is the difference between lyric and ballad? Anyone?
By lengthwise, lyric is long.
No, I'm not asking about the length wise. We need to just define what is lyric and what is ballad.
There is a kind of difference between.
Yes, okay. Anyone?
Ballad is a narrative form.
Okay. The one is short poem, other is a long poem. Okay, that's enough. And rest of the specifications or distinction between the two. That is a kind of song accompanied by music, having some sort of expression and feeling, and lyrics. You can say lyric is there, and then you see the ballad. It's a kind of story telling a tale, and you are getting some sort of complete narration. You can someone is saying narrative, long poem. So you must keep it in mind that the background knowledge. So now there are 23 poems in this joint venture of Wordsworth and ST Coleridge. 4 are on the behalf of ST, and 17 are there?
19.
19.
Of William Wordsworth.
William Wordsworth. Okay.
So when they publish this essay, as I told you, they want some revolution.
There is a question section answer session at the end of this presentation, so be vigilant. Okay. You are supposed to answer various questions.
So when people move from town to cities, so obviously there is a hectic life. They have to wake up at 9 a.m. and go to work and then came back. And there is these two poets, William Wordsworth and ST Coleridge. They published this essay Lyrical Ballad as an experiment to test the public reaction of new kind of poetry, because they both William Wordsworth and ST Coleridge, they actually old rules of new classic. So and they release a new kind of poetry, and this new kind of poetry would be written in real language of men. What is real language of men? I will tell you in later slides.
Okay, move on.
So this is that video ST Coleridge poem, The Rime of Ancient Marino, and the most famous work of William. That essay ends with a few lines of Pretended Abbey in 1798. So that's next one. So romantic period, as I told you, it starts from 1798 and ends in 1850. So in 1798, as I told you, Lyrical Ballad was also published in 1798. So people think that this romantic era starts with the publication of Lyrical Ballad. So this This romantic period has three types of revolution. French Revolution, as I told you, the audience, political, social, their beliefs were totally changed. They want freedom and liberty. And Industrial Revolution, that they shifted from towns to cities, and there is an Industrial Revolution also. So, and American revolutions. So the people of romantic age, they start writing on something new. So they start writing on poetry, and they mostly start writing on novels. So there are two types of genres in this generation. So one is poetry and another one is novel. So I am here just discussing about poetry, not on novel. So the William Wordsworth told actually the romantic poets that how a poetry should be written. What type of poetry should be written for the people of that age? So he said that he believed that intuition, not reason, should guide the poet. He said that when a poet is writing, he must be inspired by something, some divine spirit, and he should use his intuition, and he should be imaginative rather than imitator. And inspiration should come from the direct experience of sense. He said that whatever a poet wants to write, he must have the inspiration, and that inspiration must come from the sense of sensibility. Wordsworth, according to Wordsworth, the poetry is a spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. So, according to him, that's the definition of poetry. That it is a spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. So, William Wordsworth, as I told you, he introduced a new kind of poetry. So, he differentiated the old kind of poetry that was written in Romantic period, and then he introduced a new kind of poetry. So, the before the French Revolution or before the Industrial Revolution, the poets, the writers, they mostly follow the neoclassic 18th century poets. They follow the Greek poets, but the Greek poets mostly imitate. Okay, they mostly imitate, and the poets of Romantic age before the Revolution, they also imitate. They also copying the already copied thing. And poet essentially imitates the ancient poets, that according to him that we should not imitate, we should not be an imitator, we should be imaginative. In old new classical poetries, there is a rule that there is a strict rules and regulation that there should be a strict diction, there should be a high vocabulary used in poetry, a high grammar, no individuality, no creativity. What is no creativity? Suppose let's see, when there is an imitation of something, obviously there is no creativity in it. And old classical poetry tends to go longer. And William Wordsworth introduces new kind of poetry, and he said that a lot of poets before the French Revolution, they wasted out years by imitating the Greek poets. Okay, and poetry should be lyrical. As I told you, lyrical, it has a song and rhythm in it, and it should come from the heart and should touch the heart. He said that we should be imaginative rather than imitator, and the poetry should come from the heart and should touch the heart. And there must be a change in poetry, that there is a change of high vocabulary, there must be a change of high diction, and it came from the masses. So there is spelling mistake, and belong to masses means the poetry that the poetry should be written for masses, means for common people, and belongs to common people, not only for elite class of society, but it should be written for everyone. And obviously he was motivated by French Revolution, or every poet of romantic age should be motivated from French Revolution. So he said that we should not be an imitator but an imaginative. So when we imagine something, we have the ability, we have the sense of sensibility that every poet can write. When there is an imagination, there is a creativity in their writing. And poetry should be an original piece
I
of
think
poetry.
move back to the previous slide. This is in the context of old poetry, mean the classical tradition that was there. prior to introducing the new structure of the poetry. So there were the strict rules and regulations, and then high diction, high grammar, and no objectivity, meaning no subjectivity or individuality, and even no creativity in a sense. You
And there
see.
is an
But
imitation.
then, but the next one is the new poetry. That is the old one, and now you can new poetry. There are some poets listed on here.
Yes. So there should be an imagination. When there is an imagination, there is creativity, and there is obscurity. No rules, no strict rules, no regulation. That there should be a no strict regulation for writing a poetry. And the themes of the poetry, the language and the diction, vocabulary, everything should be simple, and it should be written for common people.
Yes, it's a spontaneous overflow of powerful emotions. That is the main definition by Wordsworth. So obviously it has to do with the creativity.
Yes.
When you connect it with intuition, like it is not based on reasons, still the poet's intuition is uh, working, and then imagination is there. It has to play its role. Originality, original piece of poetry. Obscurity is there. No strict rules and regulations. Simple themes are there. Mean they are describing the relation of masses belong to masses, and then you see simple themes are there, simple language and simple diction. All these are the characteristics of the new poetry, romantic poetry. Let's go on.
Next time. So, as I told you that
Second edition.
this essay has four editions. So, the first edition is just lyrical ballad, a combination of different poems, musical poems. But the second edition, in second edition, actually the William Wordsworth introduces this new kind of poetry and breaking all the rules of old neoclassic ones. So, the second edition was published in 1800. And the fun fact is that when first edition was published, Lyrical Ballad, both ST Coleridge and William Wordsworth, they both decided to not mention their name as an author because they said that we should not be the writer of, we should not mention our names as a writer. But in second edition, William Wordsworth, when he introduces his poem, one edition of poem, that Poems into volume 1807, he claimed to be the author of Lyrical Ballad, and he said that I am the author of Lyrical Ballad. So, in this Lyrical Ballad second edition, actually William Wordsworth introduces the preface of Lyrical Ballad. What is preface? Actually, it is an introduction to a book. Typically, starting its subject, scope, and aim, and it tells us about what is the subject of this book, what are the aims and scope. So, in poems in 2 Polynity 7, he claimed to be the author of Lyrical Ballad. And Preface considered to be the manifesto of English Romanticism. Here you can see that they said that in volume 2, William Wordsworth, I am the author of Lyrical Ballad. So he claimed to be that. And that's how ST Coleridge and William Wordsworth, their friendship become weak, and like somehow they become enemies. Next. Because he said that we decided to not mention our name as an author, and why you claim to be an author. So the third and fourth edition was published in 1802 and 1805. So why manifesto? Because only William Wordsworth is a poet who set out the rules of new kind of poetry, which I already discussed here, and he declared that breaking away from the neoclassical poetry, that he breaking out all the old poetry rules, and he introduces new kind of poetry, which is written which is written mostly on nature. And because in new classic poetry there is an imitation of classical poetry, there is a high diction and strict classical poetry, and there is no creativity, no imagination, just there is imitation. Next. So in second edition, as I told you, he first he add preface, and then he actually giving us the ideas of new kind of poetry, and then he shared his some ideas, new ideas in preface to Lyrical Ballad. He said that there should be a feelings whenever we write and whenever a poet writes, there should be a feelings in it. And there should be an imagination, liberty, freedom, spontaneity, and innovation. And there should not be an artificiality, triviality, or elaborativeness of 18th century. So that's how he presented new ideas. So he said that, as I told you, that the poets of romantic age, they just being an imitator, not an imaginative. So he told the poets of romantic age that how a poetry should be written or how a poet should be. So, in order to write a poetry, he actually advises the poets by giving the four stages. He said that first of all, we have to observe something. Like whenever, like wherever we go. Suppose a poet, whoever wants to written on something, he should have to go to something beautiful. So he has to go there and he should observe all those things, all the beautiful scenarios, all the landscapes. He should observe, and then when he come back home, he should lay down and close his eyes, and he should contemplate. Like whatever he observe at that place, he should memorize all those scenarios in his mind. And when this happen, when he memorizes all those scenarios, then he should filtering of unnecessary elements. Like he should only memorize the elements that he wants to put in his poetry, and he should filter. First you should observe and then contemplate, like memorize only few things, and then when whatever he memorized, he should filtering of the unnecessary element. And when all these processes, three processes happens, he then start writing, he then compose his poetry in orders. So there is a quote from Lyrical Ballad that poetry is the breath and final spirit of all knowledge, and it is the impassioned expression which is in the continence of all science. So, the preface to Lyrical Ballad actually has a four content, as I told you. The first is content, that the poetry should written for people, that in a, for simple people, for common people in rustic life. The language should used very simple. The language should be very simple, and the grammar used should be simple. The poet, how the poet should be that there are four stages for a poet to write a poetry, and what type of poetry should poet written. Any question? That's
It was a good presentation. Although